What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to week 7 of the SSBA Pokemon Draft League. Now, I know that this video is very late compared to all of my other ones, and of course, I have just had a baby. Well, I guess my wife did. I was there though. And so it has been an interesting time for me. I am running on very little sleep, and so I finally got a little bit of time to be able to record something and get this video out for you. You'll notice that there is not going to be any kind of voiceover live. There's not any kind of face cam, anything like that. I just figured that during the battle, it would be better for me to try to focus as much as I could. I did these battles a few weeks ago, and yeah, I was running on like 2-3 hours of sleep at the time, so I didn't exactly play my best, but it's okay. We still had some really good matches actually, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy these. So these are post-com this week and next week's the week 8 battle, but they're both really cool. I had some interesting things come up in both, and so I think you guys are going to be really excited to see that. Make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been in the comments just congratulating me and kind of checking in on myself and my wife and the baby and everything. Everybody is doing really well, and so we're just kind of figuring out how to function and how to be right now, and we're having a great time. So everybody's happy, everybody's healthy, so thank you all for that support. And of course, if you want to leave anything in the comments, any your advice down in the comments, I'd love to see that, or just congratulations. It helps with the algorithm, it helps out with everything here on the channel. So with all that out of the way, let's actually take a look at this week 7 matchup. So as you can see on that left hand side, we are going to be facing Shadow Stitch. Shadow Stitch took over another team midway through the season, and of course it was the Iron Valiant team, so I don't think he could turn that down. And he made a bunch of changes to it, including bringing back some mons that we already faced this season on week 2 or 3, I believe. So we've already faced Zoroark, Hisui, we've already faced the Orthworm, we've faced the Toedscruel before. All of that has been on teams that we faced so far, and so it's interesting having to re-prep for those and then also look forward to some other things. So yeah, my opponent of course is a really good battler, really nice guy. He's taken over as kind of the head admin of the league going here in the second half, and he's done a really good job. So it's been really good getting to know him. He has already posted his side of the battle, and so I will link his channel and that specific battle down below. Of course, always, just like I always say, make sure to check out the other side of this battle, because it's always interesting to see what the other person was thinking during the battle. You know, they may make a questionable decision, and maybe they'll give you some insight into what they were thinking if you watch their side. So definitely go and do that. But this week he is rocking the Iron Valiant, of course, Zapdos, as well as Moltres Galarian, and then you'll see down below you've got the Articuno Galarian. So all 3 birds in some form, which is pretty interesting, and the Articuno is actually his Terra captain. We also have Glamora, we have of course Hisui and Zoroark, we have Slowbro, which I think I may have also faced at some point this season, Delphox, Regieleki, Orthworm, Toedscruel, and the Dunsparce. So really cool team. He's been doing really well in the league. He's a really good battler, really good guy. And so going into this league, going into this week, it was really difficult to kind of narrow down what it is that I wanted to do. And so, you know, again, I implored with my good friend It's Danny Mac, and of course he is linked down below, and he helped me out a ton with building this team. And so we came up with some interesting ideas. I had basically a team ready, and then I had him look over it, and he was like, yeah, some of the stuff you're doing is kind of dumb, and he was right. And so we made some changes, and he didn't word it like that, but yeah, we made some changes, and I think that they were definitely for the better. And so let's go ahead and check those out. We'll start off with my Terra captain this week with the Sneasler. Sneasler, this was my idea to go Terra Electric this week. The main reason was because we've got all the birds showing up, as well as Slowbro, which would normally wall this under most circumstances. But with Terra Electric, I can hit all of those really hard. and it gives me the immunity to the static, which can be really, really good. The static ability on Zapdos could really just kill a sweep on the Sneasler, and so I really want to avoid that, and I needed Unburden this week to be able to outrun some things. I was predicting an agility set on the Articuno and or the Moltres this week, and so I wanted to make sure that I could outrun them, and so that's what the speed is for, in order to outrun a Articuno or a Moltres that has actually gone for the agility. So that's why we actually have some speed on the Unburden here this week. Of course, Swords Dance, Dire Claw, Close Combat, Terra Blast, pretty basic stuff, and covers pretty much everything on his team. Most of the time I'll just be clicking Terra Blast outside of a couple of things, maybe some close combats on something like the Orthworm if that decides to come. But yeah, for the most part, I think this is going to be fine. I don't expect Dunsparce to come. I feel like that would kind of be a terrible decision to bring Dunsparce this week, so I'm not expecting that at all. But yeah, the Terra Electric hits almost everything on his team, so it's really, really good. Next up, I brought my Iron Treads, and I haven't brought this every week, but I brought it most weeks. This week, we're going with more of a bulky set with 236 HP and 100 special defense with an Assault Vest. This allows me to live 2 heat waves from any Zapdos that's not Specs. And that was really important. It also would live those through burn if I were to be burned by Heat Wave on the first time, and so that is really good, and that allows me to get some big damage off on that, as well as knocking it out with some Stone Edges, which can be really good. I'm expecting it to be really defensive, so that's why I put the rest into attack there. And so yeah, we're basically trying to make this a check to the Zapdos. The Regieleki I'm not that worried about, so if this goes down early, it's fine. I don't necessarily need the immunity. It would be nice to keep this around for both, but I would happily trade this for Zapdos. And so that's kind of why I brought this, was to deal with that so that it doesn't stand in Sneasler's way. Next up, we brought Hoopa, and this of course is a very standard, well, kind of a mostly standard Hoopa set. I've got just enough speed to outspeed a Jolly Iron Valiant, and so I'm expecting this to be Booster this week. Booster just makes so much sense against my team. I really don't think there could be any other item that my opponent runs, and so basically my goal is to be faster than everything on the team barring the agility stuff, as long as I can waste that booster. And you'll see how I'm going to do that here in a second. But basically, yeah, max attack on this with Adamant Nature, just so that I'm hitting as hard as possible. We've got Hyperspace Fury and Knockoff. Knockoff, of course, is to get rid of any specific items. You know, I'm looking at what's a threat to my team, and honestly, just a standard Double Dance set on Moltres is kind of terrifying. So I'm really just expecting the set you see on any ladder of the Agility plus Nasty Plot plus Dark Move plus Flying Move. And so this can help me to, you know, outrun it normally. We've got Ice Punch to deal with that. And so I think that this can help me out with that a lot. The Knockoff, of course, gets rid of a weakness policy, which could definitely be there. It gets rid of any potential leftovers. It could get rid of something else. You know, it's not going to be able to get rid of a booster energy, but anything else could be really nice. So I think that's really great. And then finally, Facade, for if I do happen to get burned or happen to get paralyzed by the static off of Zapdos. That's why I had that in the back. So pretty cool tech. Hopefully I don't have to use it, but it is there. Next up, I have my basically counter to Iron Valiant. His entire team kind of just screams special. Basically everything on his team is special. And so I'm expecting the Valiant to be the only physical Mon. And so I ended up bringing this. Do I think it's that great into his team in general? Not really, but a fully defensive Enamorous Therian does completely check a physical Iron Valiant. Even if it's Swords Dance, I don't care. I shrug all of that off, and I can Draining Kiss and get all of my health back, which is great. I've got Earth Power to deal with anything else, and then Mystical Fire for Orthworm. So yeah, it's a pretty basic set, but I think it deals with his team pretty nicely. And then finally, I wasn't going to do this originally, but Danny suggested this to me, and I thought it was a really good idea, was to actually bring the Snow mode this week with a little bit of a weird set. So we have Abomasnow this week with the Eject Pack plus Leaf Storm tech, and I think that's a really good tech. So I think being able to come in, set the snow, click that Leaf Storm, enable the Titan, since we don't have the Icy Rock this week. That way it's in as quickly as possible, and you know, the Abomasnow takes that hit on the initial switch, so Titan's in basically for free, and then can just kind of go to town. It's choice banded this week. I didn't think that Belly Drum was going to be all that great, so I left that on the bench and ended up bringing some other stuff. Icicle Crash, of course, hits all the flying types, and it hits a couple other things. Earthquake is just a good neutral hit. Body Slam could catch a couple of things if I needed to possibly get a paralysis. But yeah, so that's the basic gist. And of course, Superpower is for the Earthworm. So yeah, that is my team for this week. Again, I hope you guys are looking forward to this match because it is a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, so jumping into team preview here, I immediately noticed that there is no Articuno over there. So that means no Terra on my opponent's side, which is pretty cool, right? We of course do see that Moltres. Like I said, the Moltres is very good into my team. The Slowbro, of course, is a good defensive wall to help stop my Sneasler. So that, of course, is pretty much expected. Regieleki is just stupid fast, and so that's really good to see. I'm expecting booster on the Valiant. Regular Zapdos, again, I'm expecting defensive on that in order to slow everything down. And then the Zoroark, I'm expecting either like choiced in some way or possibly sash. Last time I faced it, it was sashed and it did a lot of work. So that is possible, but it could also be like Specs or Scarfed. And so I've got to kind of get a feel for what my opponent is wanting to do with that. But yeah, so here we jump into the match. Again, like I said, make sure to check out Shadow Stitch down below. All of his stuff is, of course, in the description. And I've already watched his side of the match, and his video is really good. He puts out really great content, so definitely check that out. So he leads off with Zapdos, which was pretty much what I expected. And so I led off with my Iron Treads. Of course, can't Volt Switch me, can't Thunderbolt me, can't do anything like that. And so I wasn't sure if he was going to try to stay in or not. I was kind of seeing if he wanted to click the Heat Wave because I was pretty sure he had it. But basically I go for knockoff here just to see if he wanted to possibly switch out. But he ended up staying in and going for the Heat Wave, and that's fine. Of course, this reveals that I am definitely Assault Vest, and I do get static turn 1, which is really unfortunate, but I do get rid of a Rocky Helmet, which is really nice. Of course, that Rocky Helmet does kind of throw my calcs off a little bit, but I do know that I still can live another Heat Wave at this point. And so I'm considering possibly switching out, but as I look through here, nothing really wants to take a Heat Wave. This is really my only possible, and I say the word check lightly, this is my only kind of check to this, and so I'm just going to stay in and fire off a Stone Edge here. I don't really have a better play that I can see at the moment, and so I'm not sure if my opponent wants to stay in at this point, knowing that I will live here, but yeah, my opponent decides to stay in, go for another Heat Wave. Of course, I do live. There is no chance of me getting burned here because I got paralyzed, and that does a good chunk of damage, which is really, really great. Again, I don't have anything to take the fire move, so I'm just going to stay in here and just kind of let this go down and then go into something faster to be able to knock this out and hopefully not get hit with the static. But you know, knowing Dapper luck, it's very likely that I will actually get static on this one. But yeah, I don't see a better play than to just go ahead and click this. If he wants to switch in something like the Slowbro to take it, that's fine. I can save this for Death Fodder later. But he does go for the Heat Wave again and does unfortunately miss, which is kind of a huge miss because then his Zapdos would have been around to have for the static later as just a regular switch in along with Death Fodder. So that is really unfortunate for my opponent. I hit 2 Stone Edges in a row and I didn't get paralyzed, so I got really lucky right there. I will fully acknowledge that, and so When you watch Shadow's side, of course, he's like, how did this person get this lucky? It's not normal. So just don't get used to that. But I do acknowledge that I did get a little bit lucky there. So my opponent's kind of thinking of what to go into. I'm pretty much good to let this go down, just because I don't think that I can really do a whole lot with this. When he brought this in like this, I wasn't sure what the Zoroark is disguised as. I figured that the most likely candidate would be the Moltres, so I do go ahead and click the knockoff here. Him going for the Shadow Ball makes it pretty obvious that this is the Zoroark. Moltres does get Shadow Ball, but it's very unlikely that it would carry that. I would imagine that it's just going to be Flying Move, Dark Move, because you usually need your slots for other stuff, and I'm not particularly weak to Ghost. At least not with something, you know, if he was trying to hit my Dragapult, for instance, he would just click the Dark Move. So yeah, it makes it pretty obvious that this is Zoroark. And so I'm going to, I believe I go into Hoopa here just because I'm expecting this thing to be choiced at this point, just because I'm just kind of having to rely on that being the case. I could go Abomasnow here just because I am specially defensive. But it's all good. And so I go ahead and go into my Hoopa here. I don't believe that my opponent is going to, you know, switch up and go for a U-turn or anything here. So I do consider possibly pulling a double because my opponent may or may not switch in. But I also feel like it's a little early to be making any kind of crazy predictions. So I do click the Ice Punch here. This is predicting something else to switch in, actually. Maybe the actual Moltres to switch in to take the Dark Move. And so that was really what I was predicting in order to catch that. Yes, it would have activated a weakness policy, but I didn't really have a better choice at this point. So yeah, he does withdraw that. And goes into the Iron Valiant, which, you know, the Hyperspace Fury wouldn't have done all that much to that anyway. We do confirm the booster, which is good. I mean, we expected that going into this. It's definitely his best choice. The Ice Punch does a decent amount, you know, definitely not a 2-hit KO, and I do not outspeed it because it is currently under the effects of booster. So I need to get out of here immediately so that I don't have to worry about taking a Spirit Break to the face and just going down, because I would not be able to take that at all. So we go into Cooties. This, of course, is going to be my check to this, and I take absolutely nothing from this. He does get the special attack drop, which is unfortunate. That does mean my Draining Kisses are going to be doing a little bit less, so that does suck a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a Calm Mind here at the beginning. And this is just going to get my special attack back to neutral and get my special defense up for later when I have to take a hit from something else. I know my opponent is considering possibly switching, but I really think my opponent brought this mainly to deal with things like Dragapult, and I didn't bring Dragapult this week, which I know is weird. It's my kill leader. It's been doing really, really well, but I did not bring it. I just didn't think it had a great matchup. My opponent goes for the Swords Dance, which is actually fine. So we're both going to set up a little bit here on this turn. And so I'm back at neutral special attack. I'm at +1 special defense. I can definitely take another Spirit Break, so I'm really not concerned about that. And there isn't anything else that my opponent is going to want to go for that I'm really scared of. So yeah, there's the Spirit Break again. I take that just fine, and I get the drop again. So I'm at -1 special attack, but I still end up picking up the KO on the Iron Valiant, which is really, really nice. So I get pretty much all the HP back that my opponent just dealt to me, and we take back one of my opponent's strongest Pokemon, which is really, really nice. We're gonna get back even more recovery with the leftovers, so we're doing all right. We've got a +1 to our special defense. It does suck being at -1 special attack. I really wish that that hadn't happened. So my opponent is kind of searching for an answer here, and you know, I think that the only option for my opponent really is the Regieleki, and of course that ends up being what switches in. So yeah, I think this is a really good switch. I don't have a great mon to take an electric move. Of course I did lose the iron treads, but you know, I really didn't have anything else to deal with Zapdos, and you know, it's fine. It's really fine because this honestly isn't as big of a threat as the Zapdos was, at least in my eyes. It doesn't deal all that much damage. It can't Terra, and so I'm really not all that concerned about it. I actually can take one hit with this Mon because I'm at +1 special defense, and so I can fire off a hit with either Draining Kiss or Earth Power, and so I believe I do end up firing off Earth Power. And so yeah, I can take a T-Bolt on this, and it's actually, I take it quite well. And so I go ahead and click that Earth Power, and this does nothing, which confirms this thing is Assault Vest as all get out, which is so strange, but really worked out for my opponent. Yeah, really bulky Regieleki actually is really good. And the thing is, Regieleki is really good like this in draft because it's so fast that you can just really make it bulky like this. So getting some damage off on the Regieleki is always going to be really, really good. It definitely helps me out in the late game. And I think that it's going to really help me out here. Now, of course, I could stay in because this Mon really has done its job, and I really don't need the Enamorus anymore, just because it is physically defensive, but I can save it as a death fodder for later. And so I had one of two choices. I could have gone into either Hoopa or Abomasnow. Thinking back on it, Abomasnow is probably the right option in this case, but I do end up going into Hoopa instead. So, you know, you live and you learn, it's all good. But yeah, I still think this play isn't that bad. Hoopa does have pretty good special defense, and so I'll end up taking this Volt Switch pretty well. And of course, I am also Scarfed, so I am going to be faster than pretty much anything on the team because the Regieleki is the one that is leaving. So that's a really good that's a really good sign for me. As far as what my opponent wants to go into, Moltres makes a ton of sense here, and so I definitely can see that being what comes in. My opponent does take his time with this decision, but I mean, that makes the most sense. My opponent could also go into the Zoroark at this point to fake me out, because I do believe that it is disguised as the Moltres at this point. At least that makes a ton of sense to me. And so yeah, we do see the Moltres come out here, and that makes a ton of sense. But again, I don't know for sure if this is the Moltres or if this is the actual Zoroark. So at this point, I feel like Hoopa isn't insanely great at this point. I feel like it's done a lot of what it needs to do. I definitely could save it, but the biggest thing I want to do is to see if the Zoroark is Scarfed. And so I have a really big suspicion that this is going to be the Zoroark, so I'm going to check to see if it's Scarfed. I really need to know that information at this point in the battle, and so I'm willing to trade my Hoopa for that information. So I do click the knockoff here, and I deal some damage, and it turns out this actually is the real Moltres. So that is good, and we do get rid of a weakness policy, which is even better. My opponent does go for the agility, which isn't that bad. I'm really not that concerned, especially because the weakness policy got knocked off, so I don't have to worry about the Ice Punch possibly giving a boost. I'm sure my opponent did not enjoy me clicking that move, but that's okay. I think that it was a safe play. It checks for Scarf Zoroark if that ends up being the case, or it gets rid of a potential weakness policy on this. Either way, I think I think it was my best play. And so now I can get out of here and go into the Abomasnow, which can definitely take at least 1 or 2 hits, as long as my opponent doesn't have any kind of extra boosts, which is pretty good. So yeah, Abomasnow comes in, and I believe my opponent goes for the Fiery Wrath at this point. I do get up the Snow Warning, which is nice. Yep, there's the Fiery Wrath. And so my opponent is going to see that I am fully specially defensive, because that does not do all that much damage. I did consider going for something like the Ice Beam. I don't know why I didn't have Blizzard this week. I was tired. I don't know why I don't have Blizzard. But yeah, I brought Ice Beam instead for some reason. And so I went ahead and set up the Veil. I probably should have just clicked Leaf Storm, to be honest, just because if I had clicked Ice Beam, it likely would have lived, and then it would have just gone into Berserk range, and that would have been a real problem. especially since I don't have any speed on my Titan this week. So I do go for the Leaf Storm this turn, just to get a free switch into my Titan, and I get flinched. So yeah, that's really unfortunate. And so I am wasting turns of snow here, and I really don't want to let Abomasnow go down at this point, just because I may need the snow for one more round of Titan at the end. And so yeah, I am going to preserve this and go ahead and go straight into Titan. I didn't really have a better play at this point, unfortunately. I wish that I did, but I felt like this was really my only play to go forward here. So I do have to take a Fiery Wrath, which is unfortunate, but I don't take much. This thing is really bulky, and so yeah, to click in the Icicle Crash is just a super safe bet at this point. And so yeah, of course, Fire Wrath, he's going to be faster than me because he has an agility up and he's just naturally faster, and I get flinched again. So this thing would have gone down right there if I hadn't gotten flinched. So I have to take yet another turn of damage, which is just really unfortunate. Yeah, so 2 flinches off of this thing is nuts, and definitely makes up for the breakthrough that I had at the beginning with treads. Definitely more than makes up for that. So we go ahead and get the crash off and get rid of the Moltres, which is really good. This was a huge threat, and getting that out of the way is really nice, especially for Sneasler, although Sneasler could have dealt with it once we got all set up. So yeah, it is what it is. It's fine. The Regieleki comes back out here, and so I feel like this is an okay time to get Titan set back up to kind of break a little bit. And so I'm going to go ahead and go back into Abomasnow and sack that. I'm assuming it's either going to be a T-Bolt or a Volt Switch. Either way, I'm fine with it. And so we also don't have any more flying types. So we got rid of the flying types. The birds are gone. So I can actually pretty safely go for Earthquake now. There's also no Earthworm, so I don't have to worry about the Earth Eater coming into play. So we do sack the Abomasnow, and that gives us a free switch into Titan if we want to, or we can really choose whatever we want, because now my opponent has to go back out into something else. This also means that we're looking for something else here to be the Zoroark, and so in comes the Slowbro. Of course, Slowbro could be Zoroark, and so we don't know. My opponent has played the Zoroark perfectly throughout this game, I have to say. I think that the Zoroark play has been really good, keeping it masked this entire time. And so instead of going Titan against my better wishes, I go into this and go ahead and click the Hyperspace Fury, just because, again, I'm wanting to see if this is Slowbro, and we find out that was the Zoroark. And so it does click the U-turn and it gets a crit. I highly doubt that crit mattered, just because this thing has paper thin defense and it's 4 times weak to it. So yeah, I didn't calc it, but I have I am very sure that that did not matter whatsoever. So yeah, my opponent goes back out into the Regieleki, and so we still don't know, you know, when my opponent goes out into something, which one is which. It was probably better to go into Titan there, or possibly to sack the Cooties or something like that. I don't know. It could have been played a little bit better on my point, you know, looking back on it now. But so yeah, I could go ahead and set up Sneasler here though, and I think that that's honestly going to be my best play, is to go ahead and just do Sneasler, forget Titan, just because I can be in on this. This can't really do all that much damage to me, and this would allow me to pretty much set up a free Swords Dance once I Terrastalize. And so that's what I'm going to do. Once I get up a Swords Dance, I OHKO his entire team no matter what. It's really crazy, the calc, because this is how bulky Slowbro is. Even with the Electric Terra Blast, if I am to Swords Dance with Adamant Max Attack, the minimum that it does is 100. I have to Swords Dance to guarantee a KO, and if I don't Swords Dance, it just lives. And so yeah, Slowbro is incredibly bulky. It's ridiculous how bulky that thing is. And so yeah, I have to go about it this way. So I go ahead and change into an electric type. My opponent goes ahead and pops my air balloon, which is fantastic. So that sets up my unburden, and I get a free +2 attack. So now I am faster than his entire team, which is really, really good. So my opponent goes into Slowbro, And again, I don't know if this is the real Slowbro or not, but either way, Terrablast Electric will knock out either one. And so that is going to be my play, is to click that right there. Now, if you've seen my opponent's side, you know what's getting ready to happen. And this was the most fire tech that I have seen in a long time, and I did not see any of this coming. My opponent goes for Endure with a Slowbro, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I click Terrablast, and of course this is going to deal all but 1 HP. And so I'm like, what is my opponent going for here with an Endure Slowbro? What is the possible reason? Turns out he's red card, which completely screws me over. It takes away my Sword Stance and it takes away my Unburden. I get switched into Titan, but who cares? It's too little too late. And basically that one tech seals the entire game for me, because at this point I can't get Unburden back because it's only a one-time use thing. And so because of that, the Scarfed Zoroark is going to be able to outspeed my entire team and knock them out one by one. So my opponent had an incredible tech and it was really strong. And I all I can say is that's just really good prep. You know, I can recognize when somebody comes out with something really good and you get me. My opponent definitely got me. So really huge props to my opponent. Just kind of playing out of his mind and bringing the absolute needed win con in that situation. If my opponent had not had that tech, of course Sneasler would have just swept through the team. It would have outsped Regieleki, it would have knocked it out, it would have outsped the Zoroark even with the Scarf and would have knocked that out. And so yeah, it was at that point it was over. So yeah, I click Earthquake here, doesn't matter because the Zoroark is going to come back in, and click the Hyper Voice, and that's going to knock out my Titan. And of course I just kind of have to let everything fall. I'm looking back to see if there's anything that I can do, and spoiler alert, there is not. So yeah, my opponent did really well in this match. Like I said, that one tech kind of is what brought this down. I had set Sneasler up to sweep, and we had the right mons out there, but sometimes you just get red carded and you end up losing off of a really spicy tech from the opponent. So really cool. I'm gonna let the match play out for you just so that you can see it go to the finish here. But again, I wanted to say thank you so much to all of you. You all have been absolutely fantastic in my comments section, saying congratulations and checking in, just to see how I'm doing, seeing how the new baby's doing, seeing how everybody's doing. Everybody's doing great, and so I really appreciate all the support and the concern and everything. I'm gonna try to get my week 8 battle out as soon as I possibly can. I recorded it a week after I recorded this one. I recorded all of my videos on time, but I just didn't have a chance to, you know, sit down and actually do a voiceover. I do actually end up living with Sneasler, which is pretty interesting. Did it matter? No, because he ended up living. That was actually a roll, by the way. I did check, and I absolute min rolled. It didn't end up mattering in the end because the actual Regieleki would have outsped and knocked me out anyway, but just an interesting thing. It didn't change the match. It just changed the differential, and who cares? I'm not really concerned about that. But yeah, I actually had a chance to kill with that, but oh well. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, because you all have been absolutely fantastic through all of this, and I just really appreciate you as a community coming together and just kind of getting behind me and being understanding while I'm going through this new experience. And so yeah, I appreciate all of you. So yeah, week 8 battle will be up as soon as I can get that together. I will try to have that up as soon as I possibly can, and then once we get all of that done, then of course we will be moving on to the Ranger class on the D&D side, and I plan to join another draft league once the first DLC comes out. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that, and again, thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.